The Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Bridges, Cook, Coram, Crowder, Danielson, Donovan, Finberg, Fields, Foote, Gardner, Janal, Gonzalez, Hanson, Hill.
Excused.
Heisey, Holbert, Lee, Lundeen, Marble, Moreno, Pedersen.
Excused.
Priola, Rankin, Rodriguez, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Story, Tate, Todd, Williams, Winter, Woodward, Zenzinger. Mr. President.
Here. With 33 present, 0 absent, and 2 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Marble, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Colleagues, please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the Journal. Senator Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the reading of the Journal for Friday, Monday, February 3rd, 2020 be dispensed with and the Journal be approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard an example of that motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Joint Resolution 6, correctly engrossed Senate Bill 36, 38, and 108, correctly re-engrossed Senate Bill 32, 39, 46, 47, 79, 82, 91, and 100.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege for Senator Todd.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Senator will proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege from the good senator from Aurora. Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request that moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
And I know everyone thinks that I'm going to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, but I'm really not. But it is pretty darn exciting. But along with that, we have a very special guest with us this morning. And I am just thrilled, excuse me, to be able, to be able to introduce to all of you my good friend and the Consul General, Medora Takeuchi, who is arrived in Denver in November of 2018. She joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1982 and has served at the Embassy of Japan in Singapore and the Consulate General of Japan in New York and Detroit. She likes Denver best. We'll hold her to that. She also attended the G7 summits in London and Munich, the G20 summits in Washington, D.C. and London, and has visited 27 countries, including China, Republic of Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Russia, Belgium, and the United Arab Emirates. As of January 2020, Consul General Takeuchi is one of the 39 women currently in a director level of higher positions within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and one of only 12 female heads of mission representing the Japanese government around the world. She is married with 2 grown sons, one born in Singapore and the other born in New York. And one of the most important things I have learned from her as we meet and we talk and we're looking at Aurora becoming a sister city with Japan, and we are finding that the most important thing is that we continue to listen and work well together. We have great partnerships, we have great trade agreements, and as a result of that, the economic impact is huge, but the personal level of friendship across the ocean is very important. So, colleagues, please join me in welcoming the Consul General of Japan to the chamber.
The Senate will stand in a brief recess to welcome the Consul General. The Senate will come back to order. Introduction of bills.
House Bill 1009 by Representative Jackson, Senator Winter, concerning suppressing court records of eviction proceedings.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1023 by Representatives Kraft, Arpin, Van Winkle, and Senators Williams and Tate, concerning certain address database systems used for sales and use tax collection.
Business, Labor, and Technology.
House Bill 1037 by Representative Martin, Senator Quorum, concerning the Colorado Water Conservation Board's authority to augment stream flows with acquired water rights that have been previously decreed for augmentation use.
Agricultural and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1052 by Representatives Carver and Singer and Senators Gardner and Lee, concerning restrictions on making public the personal information of certain employees at risk of threats relating to the administration of human services programs.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1056 by Representatives Landgraf and Duran and Senators Crowder and Janal, concerning the non-substantive reorganization of the Dental Practice Act.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1067 by Representatives Roberts and Will and Senators Story and Fields, concerning the management of real estate held by certain junior college districts.
Agricultural and Natural Resources.
House Bill 1132 by Representative Lontine, Senator Finberg, concerning county reimbursements for election supplies from the Local Election Assistance Cash Fund.
State Veterans and Military Affairs. Introduction of resolutions. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to SR 002.
Senate Resolution 002 by Senator Sonnenberg and Fields, concerning the designation of February 4th as Missing Persons Day in Colorado.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Resolution 2 lay over 1 day under the rules.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and SR 002 will lay over 1 day under the rules. Third reading of bills, final passage, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the titles to the bills listed on the third reading of bills, final passage, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 36 by Senators Zenzinger and Cook and Representatives Liston and Melton concerning the submission to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency of a proposed revision to the state implementation plan that would enable a vehicle that fails on the onboard diagnostics test solely because its check engine light is illuminated on the vehicle's dashboard to undergo a tailpipe emissions test.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the passage of the one bill on the third reading of bills consent calendar, which includes Senate Bill 36.
Is there any discussion on Senate Bill 036? Seeing none, the motion is the passage of Senate Bill 036 on third reading and final passage of the consent calendar. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, Senate Bill 036 is passed. Co-sponsors. Mr. Minority Leader, Senators Hansen, Todd, Woodward, Lee, Moreno, Smallwood, Tate, Bridges, Janal, Sonnenberg, Rankin, Story, Rodriguez, Gonzalez, Marble, Donovan, Gardner, Heisey, Scott. Please have the President. Third reading of bills. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 108?
Senate Bill 108 by Senator Gonzalez and Representative Gonzalez Gutierrez concerning a prohibition on a landlord engaging in certain activities related to a tenant's citizenship status.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 108 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the passage of Senate Bill 108 on third reading and final passage. Are there any no votes? Senators Cook, Gardner, Crowder, Quorum, Marble, Lundin, Sonnenberg, Scott, Heisey, Woodward, Minority Leader. With a vote of 22 ayes, 11 no votes, 0 absent, and 3 excused, Senate Bill 108 is passed. Co-sponsors. Senators Moreno, the Majority Leader, Winter, Story, Rodriguez, Williams, Foote, Lee, Todd, Hansen, Donovan. Please add the President. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to Senate Bill 038.
Senate Bill 38 by Senator Fenberg and Representative Hawkins Lewis concerning the establishment of a statewide standard for the sale of biodiesel blended diesel fuel in Colorado.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 38 lay over until tomorrow, February 4th.
The motion is to lay over Senate Bill 038 until 2/4 of 2020. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 038 will lay over until 2/4 2020. Second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar, and Senator Lee will take the chair.
The committee will come to order and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title of all bills on the general orders, second reading of bills consent calendar?
Senate Bill 113 by Senator Tate and Representative Valdez D. concerning the mandatory contents of each license issued to a health facility by the Department of Public Health and Environment. Senate Bill 43 by Senator Tate and Representative Valdez D. concerning a correction to the rate of reimbursement that an out-of-network healthcare provider is entitled to receive from a health insurance carrier for services provided to a covered person at an in-network facility when the healthcare provider submits a claim to the carrier within the specified time period to conform with existing law. Senate Bill 90 by Senator Winter and Representative Escar and Titone concerning donations of food to nonprofit organizations for distribution to needy individuals. Senate Bill 86 by Senators Williams and Holbert concerning requirements associated with the expiration of legal authority to sell alcohol beverages in connection therewith, authorizing the executive director of the Department of Revenue to notify alcohol beverage licensees of an expiring license by any reasonable means as determined by rule to establish a fee for renewal applications for license or permit renewals for alcohol beverages and fermented malt beverages.
Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for the adoption of all the bills on the consent calendar and their associated committee reports, including Senate Bill 113, Senate Bill 43, Senate Bill 90, along with the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee report, and Senate Bill 86.
Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports? The motion before the body is the adoption of all committee reports on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendars. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the committee reports are adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the consent calendar? The motion before the body is the adoption of the bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the bills are adopted. Majority Leader Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion is for the committee to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion is adopted. The committee will rise and report.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, committee hold budget legal reports that in consideration of tax bills being second reading, there makes following recommendations on Senate Bill 113, Senate Bill 43, Senate Bill 90 as amended, Senate Bill 86 passed second reading order, gross place counted for the reading and final passage.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, and 2 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 113, Senate Bill 043, Senate Bill 090, Senate Bill as amended, Senate Bill 086 passed on second reading, ordered, engrossed, and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Second reading of bills. Senator Lee.
Yeah. Do exactly what you just did. May the committee resolve itself.
I move that the committee resolve itself into a committee of the whole for consideration of second reading of bills.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is adopted, and the Senate will resolve itself into the committee of the whole for consideration of general order, second reading of bills, and Senator Lee will take the chair.
He's new. Ish.
The committee will come to order, and the court rule is relaxed. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 113. Senate Bill 93.
Senate Bill 93 by Senators Foot and Fenberg, Representative Jackson.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 93 lay over until tomorrow, February 4th.
There has been a motion to lay over Senate Bill 93. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the bill will be laid over. Mr. Majority Leader. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 83?
Senate Bill 83 by Senator Gonzalez and Representative Herod concerning prohibiting civil arrest while on courthouse grounds.
Thank you, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 83 on general order, second reading of bill, and ask for an aye vote. Along with the Judiciary Committee report.
There is to the committee report.
The committee met and amended the bill in Judiciary and passed the bill on to the floor and asked for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion is for the adoption of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. Senator Gonzalez, to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 83 at its core is a bill to ensure that everyone has access to justice. When victims, when witnesses, when defendants are all able to access our courthouses, that is how we can ensure that our Colorado courthouses are places of justice. And that is the intent and the rationale behind Senate Bill 83. I ask for an aye vote.
Is Senator Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, members, we had a very interesting discussion about this bill in Judiciary Committee, and you will note, if you check the votes, that Senator Cook and I, the senator from Weld County, and I, and the senator from El Paso County, I won't refer to myself as I, voted against this bill. Now, it is an interesting bill in that it really, despite its title, it really is only affecting one group of individuals, and that is those who might be subject to an ICE administrative warrant who might be at a state courthouse. Now, what's really interesting to me as a small town practitioner from down Colorado Springs is that there is a common law privilege that is nearly dormant, a common law privilege against arrest at the courthouse in many cases. And I have to tell you, there are arrests at the courthouse for all sorts of things all the time. The committee report that you approved, I was pretty excited to see that, because what it did was exempted anyone who was from the bill. It exempted people who were held in contempt, and since I'm as likely to be held in contempt of court as anyone, I had hoped that the bill would at least protect me, but it doesn't protect me or anyone else. The judge can still have me arrested immediately for contempt of court, and that's never happened to me, but and probably wouldn't, but I'm probably more likely than any of you since I'm there more often. There's an interesting federal supremacy issue here as well, and there are two federal district court cases, one from Massachusetts, one from the Southern District of New York, that hold that this common law privilege prevents arrest by federal authorities in state courthouses. That's going to work its way through the federal appellate courts, and it may well be that they will find that the common law privilege is operative. In the meantime, I think this bill doesn't do what the sponsors would like it to do. This would be better to have been a resolution, because I don't think that the state of Colorado can tell federal officials that they can't arrest someone outside the courthouse, because that's really what this bill does. It says you can't arrest them in the courtroom, you can't arrest them at the clerk's office, you can't arrest them in the immediate vicinity of the courthouse, and even sort of purports going to and from, and I don't know how you know how that would be. That is the reason that I am opposed to the bill, and I urge you to vote no on the bill. Not because it necessarily is terrible policy, but I think it's premature. I think it purports to do something that we probably legally cannot do under the Supremacy Clause to the Constitution, and therefore, with respect, I urge a no vote.
Senator Gonzalez. Any further discussion? Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to my colleague from Colorado Springs for returning us to the conversation that we'd had in the Senate Judiciary Committee. You know, what you may argue as being dormant, I think, is actually that common law privilege is such a fundamental cornerstone of our access to our judicial system that it has been longstanding in nature and goes back to actually all the way back to English law as a principle, and that is why in multiple federal cases, federal courts have upheld this principle. And so with that, I move Senate Bill 83 and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 83? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 83. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? No. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Will the clerk please read the title to Senate Bill 26?
Senate Bill 26 by Senators Fields and Cook and Representative Singer, concerning eligibility for workers' compensation benefits for workers who are exposed to psychologically traumatic events in connection with establishing that a worker's visual or audible exposure to the serious bodily injury or death or immediate aftermath of the serious bodily injury or death of one or more people as a result of a violent event, the intentional act of another person, or an accident that is psychologically traumatic event for the purposes of determining the worker's eligibility for workers' compensation benefits.
That was the entire title.
Wow.
Senator Cook.
Pretty wordy. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 26 and the committee report.
To the committee report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We amended the bill in committee to add the words "the worker visually or audibly witnesses a death," and we just changed the wording just a little bit.
Are there any further comments on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of the Business and Labor Technology Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report is adopted. To the bill, Senator Cook. There is an amendment on the desk. Will the clerk please read the amendment?
Amendment L002, Senate Bill 26 by Senator Cook, the Business and Labor Technology Committee report dated January 29, 2020, page 1, line 2, strike audibly and substitute audibly or both visually and audibly, page 1, line 5, strike audibly and substitute audibly or both visually and audibly.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment 002.
To the amendment.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. We thought maybe the original committee report might have been a little restrictive in that it said visually or audibly or it was visually or audibly. Here's something, and we thought that might be a little to the extreme where somebody might interpret it the way it shouldn't be interpreted. So what this does, this amendment says, is that audibly or both visually and audibly. So it just kind of makes it a little bit tighter.
Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, the motion before us is the adoption of Amendment 002. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. The ayes have it, and Amendment 002 is adopted. Senator Cook. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we urge a strong support and a yes vote for Senate Bill 26. It's a really simple bill, because what we've done is we've extended the same courtesies that we have for our crime scene investigators, for our police officers, for our firefighters, for our emergency medical technicians. If they see something that's horrific, they have an opportunity to seek workman's compensation as it relates to post-traumatic stress disorder. But what has not taken place is those who sit in the room and they're taking call after call after call. These folks are our 911 operators. When they take the call, they're not eligible for workman's compensation as it relates to post-traumatic stress. So that's what it does. Instead of you just saying, if you see it, you can now hear it, and you become eligible for workman's compensation. So I urge an aye vote on this Senate Bill 26.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Several years ago, we passed a bill in here to say if you're a first responder that you can seek workman's comp for witnessing multiple deaths, seeing some horrific situations. It goes for like firefighters as well. If they go into a burning fire and they see the death of multiple people, that that has an effect on them emotionally and mentally, that they're allowed to get workman's comp. Well, we left off somebody, and that's probably that was our fault back then. Dispatchers are a critical component of first responders, but unfortunately, they're the forgotten few when it comes to law enforcement. But yet they are so critical, because without them, they're the lifeline of peace officers, of firefighters, of EMTs, and we depend on them. And unfortunately, they get it from both sides. They have the officers, the firefighters, yelling at them in one ear, and then the public is yelling at them in the other ear. And they follow the calls all the way through to the conclusion. So if they are dispatching a deputy to a shooting scene and the deputy arrives, they are on that call the entire time. And if they hear that deputy being shot and killed, it has an emotional effect on them. There's been numerous times where they would be on the phone talking to citizens, and they would hear somebody getting killed. And that has obviously a direct effect on them. So this just says, if we're including dispatchers, and it says that if they hear something audibly that where multiple people are killed or someone is killed and it affects them, they now also can get workman's comp benefits.
Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just wanted to convey that I support this bill and am grateful to the sponsors for bringing it. This was actually an issue that was brought to my attention over the interim by a constituent who had spent decades in service as a dispatcher and could personally speak to the horrors that not only she witnessed, but that her colleagues witnessed, and the stress that had on their life, and the battle with PTSD. And so, I started researching this issue and then realized that the oversight committee that the bill sponsors serve on was going to take up this issue, and now we see it before us today. And this is an issue that needs to be rectified, and I am very grateful that we have a bill in front of us to do just that. So I encourage your support of the bill.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 26? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 26. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
I've just sent these two.
The Senate will come to order. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Will the clerk please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will basically reports that on serious and fantastic bills being second reading. They makes one recommendation on Senate Bill 83 as amended, Senate Bill 26 as amended, passed second read order and gross place on the calendar for the reading and final passage. Senate Bill 93 laid over until 2/4/20 and retaining its place on the calendar.
Senator Lee.
I move for the adoption, Mr. President. Thank you for the adoption of the report.
The motion is for the adoption of the committee of the whole report. Are there any no votes? With a vote of 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, the committee of the whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 083 is amended. Senate Bill 026 as amended, passed on second reading, ordered and gross and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 093 laid over until 2/4/2020 and retaining its place on the calendar. Governor's appointments, consent calendar. Will the clerk please read all of the appointments listed on the consent calendar?
Members of the Colorado Board of Veterans Affairs effective June 30th, 2019 for terms expiring June 30th, 2023. Patricia Jane Hammond, RN, equal Colorado Democrat and veteran who has been honorably released, separated from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, reappointed. Holly K. Caldwell Parker, Colorado Democrat and veteran who has been honorably released, separated from the Armed Forces of the United States of America, reappointed. Member of the State Board of Personnel effective June 30th, 2019 for a term expiring June 30th, 2022. Sarah Kristen Wager of Littleton, Colorado, appointed.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of all the appointments on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, including members of the Colorado Board of Veterans Affairs and the State Personnel Board.
Is there any discussion? The motion is the confirmation of all the governor's appointments listed on the consent calendar. Are there any no votes?
He's going to call on you, then you do this. Get me on track.
Seeing no further discussion, the motion is the confirmation of all the governor's appointments listed on the consent calendar. With no votes, with 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, all the appointments on the consent calendar are confirmed. Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of Yolanda Fund, Bruce Casillas, Drusilla Pugh, and Elizabeth Krupa to the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Prior to that motion, will the clerk please read all of the appointments listed on the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline?
Members of the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline for terms expiring June 30th, 2023. Yolanda Lyons Fund of Monument, Colorado, serves as non-attorney reappointed. Bruce Casillas of Lakewood, Colorado, serves as non-attorney reappointed. Drusilla Pugh, Pueblo, Colorado, serves as non-attorney reappointed. Elizabeth Group of Evergreen, Colorado, serves as an attorney reappointed.
Senator Lee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the confirmation of Yolanda Fund, Bruce Casillas, Drusilla Pugh, and Elizabeth Krupa to the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the confirmation of the governor's appointments to the Colorado Commission on Judicial Discipline. Are there any no votes? With 33 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 2 excused, those appointments are confirmed. Announcements. Senator Bridges.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today is Interfaith Alliance Day at the Capitol. You may have received some of these while we were sitting here. The Interfaith Alliance of Colorado brings people together across religions and backgrounds to work towards equal rights, inclusion, equality, and opportunity for all Coloradans. They represent over 400 congregations across the state, They brought members from across different faith backgrounds and from multiple districts to connect with their elected officials. I hope some of you responded when this card came in and had some great conversations. I know we have some folks, I believe, in here on the floor and some folks in the lobby who I will not introduce by name because I do not want to fine. But wonderful to have all of you here today. Thank you.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate Business, Labor, and Technology Committee, we're caught up and we have the day off. Enjoy it, and I'll see you on Wednesday at 1:30. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Foote.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of State Affairs, we do not have the day off today. We have 3 fine bills to consider this afternoon. We will be actually doing them in the old Supreme Court room as opposed to our normal room upstairs on the 3rd level. So old Supreme Court starting at 1:30, and there's been a slight change in bill order given a request from a bill sponsor. So we'll be doing Senate Bill 77 first, then Senate Bill 133, and then finally Senate Bill 72. And that's after the 3 confirmations that we do starting at 1:30. Thank you.
Senator Phillips.
Good morning, Mr. President. Members of the Capital Development Committee, we will be meeting tomorrow in room 357 at 7:45.
Members, I just want to make one more brief announcement as a reminder. Last week I reminded you that if you are going to be gone, please check in with the majority leader, the minority leader, and please do your best to announce it at the well. If you don't, please check in with Cindy and I via text so that we can account for you. Also, with that being said, there's been a number of requests to know if you are going to be off for President's Day or Good Friday or any other day. Those will always be subject to our workload and the work that we have to do before the people. So you will know when I know, and we will know when the calendar is ready. So, Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow, February 4th, 2020.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The Senate will stand in adjournment until 0900 hours on Tuesday, February 4th, 2020.